Global Economic Governance by Fahad Al-Sheikh. According to newrules.org, global economic governance is the set of norms and institutions along which rules are generated to manage the global economy. It involves four categories of actors: intergovernmental organizations, also known as IGOs, states, non governmental organizations, NGOs, and businesses. The first case study that I chose was P5 plus 1. P5 plus 1 is the UN Security Council, which consists of five states. The states are China, France, Russia, the United States, and the United Kingdom. These five states decided to put sanctions against Iran. They did this in order to stop Iran's development of their own nuclear ambitions. Iran were working on creating a nuclear weapon in order to further their own standings in the world's elite superpowers. The United Nations Security Council has given Iran a warning to stop constructing a nuclear bomb or else they would give them sanctions. Iran disregarded the UN Security Council's threat to impose sanctions towards them and continued the development of a nuclear bomb. The UN Security Council did not take it lightly and announced sanctions against Iran. The sanctions were that Iran were not allowed to use the US dollar in any trade deal. Also, Iran were banned from purchasing any item of metal. This resulted in Iran's economy plummeting. Iran quickly looked for a solution, so they then started negotiating with the US in order to receive a better deal. The deal was that Iran had to stop their hopes for nuclear energy in return for no sanctions. A deal was made. However, when the Trump administration took office, the deal was cancelled. Trump felt the deal was being lenient to Iran, so he brought back the sanctions on Iran and their economy is doing horrible to this day. A realist in this situation would argue that the states in the UN Security Council are hypocrites. This is because they are putting sanctions on Iran for trying to create nuclear weapons. However, all the countries that are in the UN Security Council all have nuclear weapons themselves. If they are arguing for trying to keep the world a better place, then why do they have nuclear powers themselves? You may argue to the realist that there are laws and rules when it comes to the usage of nuclear weapons. However, Iran and other nations can follow the same rules, but the bigger nations use their power and influence over other nations to follow their rules. A liberalist would argue that Iran should not have faced any sanctions. This is because they believe that it is a fair game for anyone to develop a nuclear bomb and further their own country's world standing. If Iran gets sanctioned for trying to defend themselves, then all the countries in the United Nations Security Council should too, because everyone should be allowed to compete with each other freely. My second case study is the IMF. The IMF, also known as the International Monetary Fund, is the bank that helps finance the United Nations. They focus on investing in developing countries and investing in them in order to try and eliminate poverty. They focus a lot on exchange rates and basically monitor the world's trade deals. The IMF are one of many banks that give loans to countries that have troubled economies in order to try and revive their economy. The IMF has been widely criticized for helping Western countries' interests, such as the United Kingdom and the United States. As of October 9, 2019, the IMF have 188 states listed as members. The most frequent loan receivers are European countries such as Portugal and Greece. In fact, on June 30th, 2015, Greece did not pay back the IMF loan of 32 billion in emergency loans. The IMF also helped Ghana when their economy was going down with multiple loans, and since then they have had one of the fastest rising economies in Africa. Overall, the IMF monitor the world states' economies and makes sure to intervene if a country's economy ever goes downhill. A realist would argue that IMF have no place getting involved with other states' trade deals, as it is something that is between the two states making the deal. Also, that no third party should be saving the mistakes of the government or a government in a country they have nothing to do with. then impose sanctions if the country does not have the money to pay them back. A liberalist would argue that what the IMF are doing is actually a good thing. This is because they make sure that all the trade deals are legal and fair. Also, the IMF helps many of the poorer countries, which is a great act to do by trying to prevent poverty. Also, it helps prevent corruption as they keep their eyes on every detail in regards to trade between states. In conclusion, global economic governance is the monitoring of world trade deals and countries' wrongdoings. Global economic governance is benefiting many countries while at the same time harming many others. Overall, the countries with the most influence are the ones who essentially control it, and those who lack influence are the ones being harmed by it.